Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. You know the feeling, right? Before the coffee is even poured, most of our brains are already a completely chaotic mess. Well, today, we're breaking down a highly structured, intensely focused morning devotional practice that is designed to fix exactly that. Our source material for today lays out this fascinating framework for how someone might theoretically map out their entire day through a lens of deep spiritual surrender. It's all about yielding control to actually find clarity. We're going to unpack the exact mechanics of this theological concept, and we'll explore how this practice connects our internal, private thoughts to our external, everyday actions.
Here is the roadmap for our journey today. We'll start with the central metaphor in Section 1, the calm control tower. Then we'll look at surrender and ordering your steps in Section 2, followed by defense and guarding your mind in Section 3. Section 4 explores walking in the Spirit, and we'll wrap it all up with Section 5, the morning prayer blessing. Let's get right to it.
Section 1. The Calm Control Tower, Navigating the Noise of Life.
To really understand this practice, we first have to wrap our heads around a powerful extended metaphor the speaker uses to frame our mornings. The source sets the scene by comparing our minds to chaotic airspace. It says, inside a busy control tower, one calm voice directs dozens of pilots at once. Their entire training revolves around clarity, focus, and a mind shielded from distraction. The speaker uses this brilliant imagery to explain that left to our own devices, our minds are basically full of intersecting, really dangerous flight paths. So to avoid a mid-air collision, we desperately require clear, external, divine direction before our day even begins.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core tension of the entire devotional. Just look at the contrast here. On one side, we have our default state of navigating life on our own strength. That's the noisy world filled with scattered thoughts, enemy traps, random noise, and sheer confusion. But contrast that with the devotional's proposed solution, tuning in to the calm voice in the tower. This voice provides clear maps, ordered meetings, and what the speaker beautifully calls divine interruptions. The whole premise is that if you don't intentionally tune into that calm voice before you walk out your front door, you are inevitably going to fall victim to the chaos. Moving right along to Section 2, Surrender and Ordering Your Steps, the Mechanics of Divine Partnership.
This brings us to the very first core pillar of the practice. Now, the speaker is extremely careful to clarify that surrender isn't just some passive loss of control. It's not giving up. Rather, it's an active, dynamic partnership called ordered steps. The source defines this as a partnership where God actually walks with you, directing your daily movements, your meetings, and yes, even your detours. It's an inheritance granted freely to those who surrender. The absolutely crucial detail here is that the divine isn't just watching from a distance, like a detached manager sending memos from the top floor. Instead, the divine is intimately involved in every single footfall of your day.
To back this up, the devotional points straight to Proverbs 16:9, and the speaker makes a really interesting distinction here regarding human agency. As humans, we are absolutely allowed to plan our ways. We can set our schedules, make our to-do lists, all of that. But the devotional teaches that a surrendered person allows God to reserve the right to redirect, delay, or just entirely change those plans. So in this framework, a closed door or a sudden inconvenience, it isn't bad luck at all. It's actually a protective detour meant for your ultimate good.
We see this practically applied in the source's first biblical case study, which looks at Abraham's servant in Genesis 24, who sent out to find a wife for Isaac. Notice the sequence. Step 1, he doesn't panic. He just stops at a well. Step 2, he asks for a highly specific sign that the right woman will offer water to both him and his camels. Step 3, he waits and Rebekah appears. The speaker notes that the servant was not lazy in faith, but rather specific in surrender. He asked the divine exactly what he needed without dictating how it should be delivered. That's a huge difference.
Which brings us to Section 3, Defense, Guarding Your Mind and Protecting the Receiver.
Now, what's really interesting about this concept is how it connects back to our control tower metaphor. Think about it. It doesn't matter how crystal clear the instructions are from the tower if your airplane's internal radio is completely jammed with static. The devotional defines a guarded mind as the radio receiver for the Father's whisper. But check out the second half of that definition. It's a mental state that actively captures bitter or anxious thoughts before they can install themselves. The speaker insists that you are not the victim of your thoughts, you are their warden. Drawing on 2 Corinthians, the whole idea is that whenever a whisper of bitterness or fear arrives in the morning, you don't just passively let it sit there. You arrest it. You cast it down before it can take root.
The source illustrates this perfectly with a second case study, the life of Joseph.
Just consider his journey for a second. Season 1, he's betrayed by his own brothers and sold into slavery. Season 2, he's transported to Egypt and tempted in Potiphar's house. Season 3, he is unjustly thrown into prison. But the speaker points out something profound here. Joseph's mind was settled before these massive tests ever occurred. Because he had a guarded mind, he didn't wake up every single day in Egypt just rehearsing the offense of his brothers. He literally refused to let resentment become the soundtrack of his life, and that is ultimately what allowed him to survive the prison and reach the palace.
So, when we put this all together, it creates a direct cause and effect relationship between our internal thoughts and our external steps. Notice the stark difference between these two columns. If you are in the scattered state, you have scattered thoughts, which creates all this anxious noise, which inevitably leads to a wandering, undirected life. But over in the surrendered state, a guarded mind yields perfect peace. That peace clears the static, allowing you to actually hear the guidance necessary for an ordered walk. Long story short, you cannot have the ordered walk without the guarded mind.
Next up, Section 4, Walking in the Spirit, the Daily Rhythm of Obedience.
Up until now, the focus in the source material has been strictly on morning preparation, but here the source makes a major shift. It moves the focus to all-day companionship. The core message is starkly simple, but super challenging. The Holy Spirit wants to be consulted on small choices, not just on massive crises. The speaker emphasizes that getting an ordered step in the morning means practically nothing without a yielded walk all day long. This practice isn't just a quick 1-minute consultation while you tie your shoes, it's an ongoing, continuous dialogue. The source claims this internal voice wants to be invited into the incredibly mundane moments of life. We're talking grocery store decisions, budget conversations, and even being the second voice on every angry email reply you almost send.
Let's move to our final case study and see how this builds, looking at the book of Acts with Peter and Cornelius. Look at the timing here. In the afternoon, Cornelius receives a visit from an angel. At that exact same hour, Peter is up on a rooftop, receiving a vision during prayer. Moments later, the Spirit actually prompts Peter to go with the messengers that Cornelius sent. The speaker highlights that going to a Gentile home was strictly forbidden by Peter's tradition, but Peter chose to walk in step with the Spirit rather than in step with custom. This incredible obedience over custom, which was only made possible by a guarded mind, supposedly changed the entire course of history.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, the Morning Prayer Blessing, activating the concepts.
So, after laying out all of this deep, abstract theology, the speaker transitions into a deeply practical, extended prayer that is meant to actually activate these concepts in the listener's life. Now, the source material features a very highly repetitive prayer, but we've distilled it down into these clear categories for you. The speaker prays for physical healing down to specific organs, like lungs and nerves. They pray for financial provision and breakthrough, the breaking of generational cycles, family and marital restoration, actual physical protection from accidents, and mental deliverance from bitterness and fear. It is a highly comprehensive blessing, basically covering every conceivable angle of a person's physical, mental, and spiritual life.
But right before that prayer concludes, the speaker clarifies a really crucial distinction based on Isaiah 26:3. They contrast a still mind with a stayed mind. A still mind is passive, it's empty, it's unanchored, it's just blank. But a stayed mind, which is exactly what the devotional advocates for, is actively anchored on God's goodness. It's a mind that even when it naturally wanders, because let's be honest, it will, it actively chooses to return to the truth. Peace, in this framework, isn't about emptying your head, it's about intentionally filling it with a specific, unshakable anchor.
So the crucial point we are left with is summarized perfectly by this question straight from the transcript. What will your mind be stayed on today? Will it be stayed on the news, the bills, the betrayals, and the bad memories, or will you actively anchor it to something higher? The devotional leaves us with this heavy choice, making it absolutely clear that you cannot guard what you do not intentionally choose to focus on. It's a powerful reflection on the focal point of our daily mindset. So what are you anchoring to today?